You surround yourself with only agreeable people because you want peace. You avoid conflict at all costs, believing that harmony equals strength. You compromise your standards to keep everyone happy. You believe that having no enemies shows character, that being universally liked equals success. But here's the brutal truth. Nobody tells you. Every time you avoid necessary conflict, every moment you sacrifice your standards for peace, every instance you remain universally agreeable, is destroying your power. You're becoming weak, undefined, and ultimately irrelevant in a world where strategic opposition creates strength. And the absence of enemies is the fastest path to personal failure. Today we're going to explore the uncompromising principle of strategic enmity, why certain enemies can be more valuable than allies, and how to transform from someone who avoids conflict into someone who chooses enemies with masterful precision. The modern world has conditioned us to believe that peace equals virtue, that conflict equals failure, that having enemies equals being problematic. But this is a trap. In power dynamics, the person who has no enemies becomes invisible. The person who chooses strategic enemies becomes powerful. And avoiding conflict is weakness disguised as maturity. Consider this scenario. Person A surrounds themselves with agreeable people, avoids all conflict, and believes that universal harmony will bring success. Person B identifies clear adversaries, uses opposition to sharpen their skills, and becomes the embodiment of focused excellence. Who do you think becomes stronger? Who commands respect? Who has more strategic power? The person who avoids enemies, or the person who chooses them strategically? The ancient strategists understood this dynamic when they embraced the power of opposition. They weren't conflict seekers by accident, they were strength builders by design. In our conflict-averse age, this principle becomes devastatingly effective, because when everyone is desperately avoiding enemies, the person who embraces strategic opposition becomes unstoppable. The fatal addiction of modern success is the belief in universal peace. You avoid difficult conversations because you don't want to hurt feelings, compromise your standards to maintain relationships, and believe that being liked by everyone equals being successful. You become predictable, replaceable, and ultimately unremarkable. In strategic living, this means it's better to have respected enemies than superficial friends. Universal love creates weakness. Strategic enmity creates strength. Think about the typical professional scenario. You work with difficult colleagues but say nothing to avoid confrontation, take on extra work to keep peace, and believe that harmony will lead to promotion. You believe this shows maturity, but you're missing the fundamental truth. People don't respect those who avoid conflict. They respect those who stand their ground, who have clear enemies because they have clear standards. The principle of strategic enmity was the secret weapon of history's greatest leaders. They didn't avoid opposition. They chose enemies that would push them to excel, that would define their identity, that would unite their followers. If you want growth, choose enemies who challenge your weaknesses. If you want clarity, choose enemies who force you to articulate your values. If you want unity, choose enemies who rally your allies against a common threat. The first principle, enemy selection. Don't accumulate enemies randomly. Choose them deliberately. The greatest strategists understood that certain enemies are more valuable than allies because they force growth. In modern terms, don't just accept whoever opposes you. Seek out competition that challenges you to improve. What areas of your life are you avoiding because they require conflict? What standards are you compromising? What growth are you preventing by staying comfortable? The second principle, identity through opposition. Enemies don't just oppose you, they define you. By having clear adversaries, you force yourself to articulate what you stand for, what you won't tolerate, what you're fighting for. In today's world, don't try to be universally liked. Define your boundaries clearly. Post your unpopular opinions. Take stands that create division. As Machiavelli taught, everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. In strategic living, everyone sees your public persona. Your enemies experience your true character, your real strength. The third principle, growth through resistance. Enemies push you harder than any ally ever could. They reveal your weaknesses, force you to innovate, and keep you from becoming complacent. In modern business, the company with clear competitors becomes stronger than the one with no opposition. The individual who has rivals pushing them improves faster than the one working alone. The leader who faces opposition develops resilience that comfort never provides. The fourth principle: unity through common enemies. A shared adversary can unite disparate groups more effectively than any positive vision. Enemies create focus, urgency, and solidarity. In modern politics and business, the most successful movements often rally around what they're against rather than what they're for. Choose enemies that unite your supporters, that give your cause clarity and purpose. Consider two entrepreneurs building similar businesses. Person A tries to be friends with everyone in their industry, avoids criticism, and believes that cooperation equals success. Person B identifies clear competitors, studies their strategies intently, and uses opposition to fuel innovation. Who grows faster? Who attracts better talent? Who becomes more successful? Person A remains mediocre through false harmony. Person B becomes excellent through strategic conflict. Person A has no enemies because they compromise everything. Person B has enemies because they stand for something. Person A becomes forgettable. Person B becomes legendary. Strategic enmity extends beyond business. In personal relationships, the person who avoids all conflict becomes a doormat. The person who chooses strategic boundaries creates respect. In social media, the person who posts bland, agreeable content gets few followers. The person who takes controversial stands attracts passionate followers and clear detractors. The ultimate goal isn't having enemies, it's using opposition as fuel for growth. Strategic enmity transforms you from conflict avoider into strength builder. Results come when you stop seeking universal peace and start choosing strategic opposition. When you select enemies instead of accepting them. When you use conflict as a forge for excellence. The ancient strategists didn't teach avoiding enemies. They taught embracing the right ones. They understood that certain opposition creates more strength than any alliance. In our peacemaking age, this is devastatingly effective. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." In strategic living, this means it's safer to have respected enemies than superficial admirers. Fear commands attention. Love creates complacency. The pragmatic mandate: become the strategic adversary who chooses enemies deliberately. Not through aggression, but through strength. Not through conflict, but through excellence. The wise man, as Machiavelli said, does at once what the fool does finally. Don't wait for enemies to find you. Choose the ones who will make you stronger now. Because in a world of conflict avoiders, the strategic becomes unstoppable. And you can choose to embrace strategic enemies or remain weak through false peace. The choice is yours.